Hello, true believers. Welcome to another edition of BK's Bullets. My name is not Brent Casina. My name is Jim Efantis, and from time to time, I read comic books that Brent lets me borrow. And today, I'm going to be taking a look at Wolverine, Enemy of the State, and Wolverine, Enemy of the State, with the subtitle, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, this is a trade paperback collection from Wolverine 20 through 25 on this one. And this one was 26 through 32. The books are by Mark Millar and John Romita Jr. I will just jump right into it and tell you guys that I really enjoyed this story arc a lot. I know Wolverine is kind of in the news again right now because in the modern comic books, he's back, he died, he came back, whatever. What I love about this is that Wolverine is totally used and abused and thrown to the wolves numerous times, but he always finds a way to battle back, and I think that gives him a sense of grit that I didn't really see much before in terms of what I know of him. And I should say I don't know a whole lot about the guy. Obviously, the X-Men cartoon is kind of what most of my knowledge in this stuff comes from, but the fact that he was brainwashed and he murders so many people while he's brainwashed, and then he's unbrainwashed and he murders even more, is ridiculous. And the book does not pull any punches in terms of the grit or the reality of the situation. So if you don't want to know any more about this book, stop watching this video, come back when you're done. I'm going to get into some spoilers. I'm going to talk about my thoughts on it, do a little plot summary, my traditional spiel on these things, so you have been warned. All right. Wolverine picks up with him being brainwashed. He actually goes on a mission to try to help this little boy who's been missing. And what ends up happening is he is kidnapped by this guy called the Gorgon. Now, the Gorgon has a very unique ability, and he can turn people into stone by looking at them, very similar to Medusa. He is working within Hydra. He is within this like rogue cult of Hydra. And basically what he is trying to do is capture old superheroes, either dead or alive, typically dead, reprogram them, bring them back to life, and send them out to wreak havoc on other superheroes. So it's not really entirely sure how he has this capability. Obviously, Hydra, the big bad, very similar to S.H.I.E.L.D. in the sense that they have a lot of money and technology. What you need to understand, though, is that when Wolverine is brainwashed and he comes back as a mass murderer of the good guys, he has been given some enhancements. So he can teleport, he has minor telepathy now, he is just super enhanced beyond normal. And that makes him an incredibly menacing threat as he works his way basically through S.H.I.E.L.D. and just starts taking people out left and right. One of the big one of the big people that he takes out, which ultimately becomes a villain, is this guy called North Star. He plays a significant role later on. But what I really liked about it is that Wolverine throughout this entire book is really at odds with kind of what is happening. And there's a lot of duality between how he acts and how he thinks. So there's always these little dialogue blocks, and depending on the color, you can tell if it's like the real Wolverine or the programmed Wolverine. I like that because you see he's struggling with it, and even though the grip on Hydra is put on him cannot be broken, he is still cognizant and aware of what he is doing, and there is some remorse. And as he's gutting through S.H.I.E.L.D. agents left and right, you can hear him saying to himself, man, I really hope they can stop me, or I hope they can get away because I can't stop myself. And I really enjoyed that look into his psyche. I think they could have taken a very easy shortcut on this comic book and just had him just pure evil. But the fact that he's almost an anti-hero, I think really lends itself well to the story. And I think it makes him a much more compassionate character. You still feel for him, even though he kills a lot of people. So the turning point of him resolving and turning back into human is Elektra. And Elektra is a pseudo-assassin character, kind of. A lot of ninjas in this book. Very ninja-heavy. Ninja swords, ninja stars. A lot of ninja, Chinese, Japanese emphasis on this book. So Elektra comes in, and she is able to, with the help of other people in S.H.I.E.L.D., grab Wolverine, and they plug him into this machine, and they slowly de-brainwash him. During that time, Wolverine, who has killed Northstar, he takes over for Wolverine's place, and he starts going off on a rampage, killing superheroes left and right. So the first part of the book is Wolverine basically breaking everything, getting on, watching the SHIELD helicarrier get destroyed and tons of SHIELD agents dying, Nick Fury getting stabbed, lots of carnage that Wolverine goes through. Then the second book, the book here, the second part, the Agent of SHIELD, he comes out of it, and he is now a good guy again, and he is basically trying to undo all the things he has done. Now, there's some goofy stuff that happens where Elektra was a agent of Hydra, but she really wasn't an agent of Hydra, but she was. We're still not really sure. It's ambiguous how it ends in the story, but the point is that, a lot of anti-heroes are in this book, and Wolverine and Elektra kind of share the spotlight throughout most of the book in terms of their intentions and why they're doing what they're doing. But at the end of the day, Wolverine prevails. He ends up in this very epic battle with the Gorgon, and they fight, and Wolverine uses his claws to reflect his face. The Gorgon looks back at himself, turns himself into rock. Wolverine uppercuts him, and the guy explodes. Somewhat anticlimactic. I had hoped Wolverine could have beaten him. I don't want to say fair and square, but I think it would have been a lot cooler if Wolverine didn't just rely on a mirror. Because, really, couldn't anybody have done that? Just hold the mirror up to the guy and he would have died? I don't know. It seems kind of lame to me, but it was a very intense battle, and I really liked the pacing of the book. I really liked the back and forth between Wolverine and the Gorgon at the end there. And the fact that even after that, they go into a little bit more story of how many people Wolverine has killed, and it's in the tens of thousands of this warpath that he's on. And even after he's done, he doesn't go back to SHIELD. He just continues his one-man rampage, and he goes off into greater and wonderful things. Obviously a very conflicted person because he's aware of all the atrocities that he has endured, or that he has gone through, that he has now has to endure. There's a really cool scene in there where he is fighting Northstar, and he has a chance to kill Northstar. And instead of killing him, he knocks him out, and he says, I'm going to try to save you. So it shows some sympathy on his part, and I like that he isn't just treated as a wild, crazy savage, but that there is a man behind the machine, in a sense. And for that, I liked it. Now, I don't know where the story would go after this. I only read these small books, so the fact that this is part of Wolverine's canon, and this isn't like the Elseworlds books that a lot of times Brent lets me borrow, I'm curious to see what would happen next, and that would be something I would consider picking up to read along if the story lended itself to something along this magnitude, because it was a very epic tale, and I really did enjoy it. If I have to give any criticism to the book, it would have to be with the coloring, and I don't know if... I talked with this briefly about Brent at work. I don't know if this is a result of the guy drawing or the way that they ink it or whatever, but I'm going to go ahead and show you a picture here. The problem is a lot of scenes like this are covered. Absolutely covered in water lines or in movement lines, I'll call them. If somebody's running, or if water's coming on them, or if they're being showered with bullets, or if they're jumping out of a window and the glass shards are blowing up around them, it makes it hard to appreciate what's going on, especially when a lot of these fights take place in the rain, or they take place in some sort of rushing vacuum or energy or something going around it. It makes it very difficult. Here's another example of it. It makes it very, very difficult to understand kind of what is going on. And I feel like you could have done a really good job selling the story, still with those movement and that transition line, but not so heavily, because it really did annoy me. And I'm like squinting, like, what is going on here? And I'll tell you, even at the climax, the whole final fight with Gorgon and Wolverine, the last 12 books that we're invested in, ready to see these two guys finally fight for one last time, this epic battle of life or death. It took me a minute to understand what was going on, because it was, again, very, very heavy with the lines, very heavy with the motion, and I just feel like they dropped the ball there. That's the only thing I can critique, but the story was really, really good. So I'm going to give this a heavy recommendation. I don't necessarily rate these things, but this is definitely a good book. I like both of these. I think you need to read them both, because if you just stop here, you don't get to see the retribution of Wolverine. You just see him waking up like, hey, that was cool. What now? So highly recommend it. The book, there's some really cool art on the back there. That's the Gorgon. Really like that character. That was really, really neat. The name of the book, Wolverine, Enemy of the State, volumes. It's from Wolverine 20, like I said, 20 to 32. Check it out. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I will see you guys in the funny pages.